we are live. Good morning, everyone who are joining us now on the YouTube view. So if you are here, why don't we start with greeting each other, right? Just type in on the live chat, just a greeting so that we know that we're all ready to go. You can just say good morning. If you know Mok Sang, you can say good morning to Mok Sang. Right? Yeah, so maybe you can just type in your name and then just a short greeting so that we know that we are ready to go. Okay, while we wait for a while for those who are joining us. Hi, Andre. Yeah, who else is there? Yeah, just let us know that you are here with us so that we can also greet you as well before we pass the time to Mok Sang. Hi, Fred. Good morning. Hi, Christina. Good morning. Good to have you all join us this morning. Hi, Romana, Isaac and Swin. Hello. I was reading the call sign. Good morning, Isaac and Swin. Hey, who else is here with us? Yeah, just let us know. Will be delightful to greet you, even though we cannot see you face to face. But we still want to extend our greeting to you as you join us this morning. Yeah, so for those of you who know your friends who have signed up and have not logged on, right, maybe you want to just give them a text to tell them that we are starting in about 2 minutes time, right? So they wouldn't want to miss this session. Hi, Regina. Good morning. Okay, so for those who are joining us, yeah, get your favorite drink with you. It's a cool morning over my place here. I'm not sure about your side. It's still raining. So if it's raining over your side, get a drink and find a comfortable place to sit and join us this morning. Hi, Yi Hong. Good morning. Glad to have you with us. Is Chun Sing watching with you? Hi, Samuel Lim. Good morning. Yeah, we are having people joining us. Okay, just wait for 1 more minute and then we'll pass the time over to Mok Sang. Okay, just to heads up, during the session, we'll have a poll as well as a Q&A time. So do keep the Slido link and QR code handy with you because we are going to use that for our Q&A and our poll event later on. Hi, Chun Sing, good morning. Hi, Ellen and Jenny, good morning. Okay, whilst time, we're going to pass over to our speaker this morning, Mok Sang. She's all ready to bring us through this morning. Okay, let's pass the time now over to you, Mok Sang. Let's bring us through this morning's talk. Over to you, Mok Sang.
Right, thank you, Fang Ming, for the intro. Right. Okay. I trust that y'all can all hear me. I cannot see any one of you. Okay, good morning, friends. Thank you for taking time this morning to join us for this sharing. A quick intro about myself. I'm Mok Sang. I worship at the 9 a.m. service in PLMC. Currently, I'm the chairperson for Family Life Ministry in church. Together with me, I have a group of very dedicated committee members where we serve in various areas such as marriage preparation, marriage mentoring, marriage enrichment, and we also conduct workshops for parents. Okay, I've been married for 33 years and we have 4 children. Before I begin this morning sharing, I would like to say I'd like to begin with a word of prayer. Let us pray. Indeed, Lord, we thank you for this privilege of coming online, for me to share some thoughts in this area of sustaining our marriage, especially during this COVID-19 period. And Lord, as I share this morning, use me to say the things that you want me to say. And Father, we know marriage is instituted by you. Some of us may be struggling with our marriages, some of us are okay, some of us are doing well. Whatever we are, whichever state, Father, I ask that you, Holy Spirit, come this morning to teach us. Give us an open heart, give us humility, give us that willingness to listen to you. And that, Father, you use me to speak the words to those who are listening. So I commit this time to you, dear Lord. I want to pray all this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Right, this will be the rough outline for this morning's sharing. I will begin by talking about marriage, talking about the period of grief and loss, and how it has an impact on us. Think, feel, share, and what we can do, and the conclusion. Okay, this morning, because we are on the topic of marriage, I want to once again remind ourselves that marriage is hard. Marriage requires a lot of hard work. It requires us to sacrifice.
Sorry, Mok Sang,
Yes,
just to cut you, you have to speak a bit louder. I think they are finding a bit soft. Sorry.
Okay. Let me just increase my volume. Is this better? Is this better? Okay, I will speak louder then. Is this better, Guang Ming? Okay.
Yes, that's good.
Okay, good. I think it's my thing. Okay, marriage requires a lot of hard work. So it requires us to sacrifice our time, sometimes our resources, our sleep, our hobbies, and definitely it requires us to give a lot of love, a lot of humility, because sometimes we have to do things we don't like. Sometimes we have to accept that we need to make changes for ourselves. Forgiveness of ourselves as we make mistakes all the time. Forgive our spouse, forgive our children when they make wrong decisions in their life, when they hurt us, and sometimes when they lie to us. This work sacrifices love, humility, forgiveness, sometimes need to even extend to our spouse family, because sometimes our mother-in-law, our sister-in-law, the extended family may do things that hurt us and hurt our marriages. And so over time, we have to work through this. We have to learn to forgive them with God's help. And some of these processes can take years. So at this time, I just want to remind ourselves that even during normal circumstances, marriage is hard work. All the more with this COVID-19, I think for some of us, possibly it is even harder. Okay, before I move on, let's ask ourselves this question. Where are we in our marriages? Where are we in our marriages? Okay, Guang Ming, you want to take over?
Yes, I will do that. Yeah, so this is, at this moment, going to do a poll. So I'm going to just stop sharing Mok Sang's screen, and then I'm going to share screen. Let me find my screen. Just give me a minute. Okay, if you have your... Okay, I can't seems to find my screen. Just give me a minute. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so if you can take out your phone, right, can just scan on this QR code here. And then once you see this page here, click on the polls, right? So click on this QR code. Then once you see this page, click on the poll. Okay, and you should be able to yep. So just key in your answer there. Right, once you scan the QR code, click on the poll, then you should be able to key in your answer. Right, so we are waiting for the answers to come in. So where is your marriage at this point? You can key in a word: good, bad, excellent, marvelous, wonderful, okay. Right, so this will be yeah, very good. Okay, let me share the screen for the result. Okay, show the poll. There you are. Okay, wow, okay. Looks like most of us are having okay. Yeah, just keep sending your answers. We would like to know where you are. Okay, we have so far 5, 6. Okay, you can just scan on this QR code here and then choose poll and key in your answer. Okay, good, okay, wow, marvelous. Good midlife. Okay, any more? Yeah, just send in your answers. Right, scan on the QR code and then you can scan. Once you see the page, just click on poll and you can put in your answers. Good but challenging to care for elderly parents. Wow, that's true.
Mm.
Yeah, we'll wait for another minute for the response to come in.
Thank you for sharing. That's nice. Yeah,
Yep.
very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. While Mok Sang is still talking, you can keep on sending your answer, right? And then later on, we'll be able to see what is the response. So I'm going to pass the time now over to Mok Sang.
Okay. I have to go back to share screen again.
Mm.
Yeah. Apologies. Huh? Okay. I think that the reason why I wanted us to really look at marriages is because some of us are at different stages in our marriages, okay? And some of you may say that when my spouse is in good mood, the marriage is okay. When my spouse is in bad mood, it is actually terrible. Whatever is it in our married life, it's normal for us to have different satisfaction level and how we feel about the marriage. When we are going through major illnesses, especially, for example, one of you mentioned elderly parents, when the children come along, especially if they are school-going age and they need a lot of your attention, when we have financial uncertainties, most probably our marriage may go a little bit down, sometimes even really, really down. So we do go through ups and downs in our marriages. Whatever stage we are in, some of us doing okay, I think a lot of you say okay, but a lot of us are also struggling. With this COVID-19 and the circumstances that come with it, chances are that you will have an impact on our marriage. Some of the impact could be actually quite major. Okay, let's go on. Okay, this morning I want to suggest that actually as we go through the COVID-19, we are actually going through a period of loss and grief. Okay, this loss means loss of familiarity, certainty, security. It means, for example, we lose our job, or our job is uncertain. We're not sure the income that is coming in. We're not sure how much income will come, etc., etc. And some of us are asking ourselves almost on a daily basis, when is this going to end? The other loss, which for many of us can be really very tough, is staying connected with others, connection. Generally, as human beings, we are social beings. That means we need to be connected to others physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. So when we don't meet physically, it is actually quite difficult to connect emotionally and psychologically, because we cannot hug, we cannot touch, we cannot see, we cannot feel. So this separation from our loved ones, this inability to meet up with our friends can have a very, very big impact on us. It's a loss of connection, interaction, and sometimes even relationship. The other thing we are losing is our choices and our freedom. In other words, we cannot go out whenever we want. We cannot do whatever we want. There's a loss of freedom. And a loss of independence. And I know that for some people, they even cannot pursue their hobbies, something which they enjoy very much. So for us, some of us aunties or the elderly, they cannot go in the morning to meet up with their exercise friends, for example. Okay, some of us postpone our wedding, celebration, long vacation, renovation hanging in the air. Some of us cannot move house because things are incomplete. So this is a period of grief and loss for many of us, some of us more than others. How do we cope during this period? During this period of grief and loss, actually also is a threat to ourselves. It's a period of great intense stress, the intense stressors in our life, I would call it. And how do we cope during this period? One of the ways we cope is to put up what we call a flight or a flee mode. Okay, sorry, a flight. It means you sort of very intense. Your body goes through this intense reaction to what's happening around us, the losses that we are going through. So we are what we call in a survivor mode. Okay, some of us more than others, but generally, this is what we are operating on. It is actually a mode that we are not used to. This mode usually comes when we have very intense stress. But the COVID-19, because of the losses that I mentioned earlier, this survivor mode is actually over a long period of time. I want to share a little bit what is this survivor mode about. Because of this survivor mode, we are usually not at our best. We are getting by because we are surviving. I'll say a little bit more as we go along. And usually this period, we are looking out for ourselves. So we can be a little bit more inward looking than we usually are. We are not tolerant of others. Okay? And sometimes we can be quick-tempered and we end up losing our patience with our loved ones. Yeah. So I just want to keep this at the back of our mind because that's the state we are functioning now. Okay? And this can affect the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. The survivor mode also requires us actually to have a different skill set. So for example, adapting to work at home, IT skills. One of my friends mentioned that she has to learn to order things online, something she's never done before. We work at home, we have to be very disciplined, flexible. We need to work with a lot of noise, with maybe helping out with housework, different time zones, etc. Presence of mind. There are many, many changes happening. One day we are told this, another day at work we are given this email, etc. So we have to be alert, we have to be nimble. Functionality over process. So this is the time when we don't worry too much about the process first. Let's survive, let's function. So if we get our children to help us wash dishes and they make a mess, it's okay, the dishes are done. Okay, the opposite of survivor mode is this thing called thriving mode, normal mode, developmental mode, our growth mode. This is the mode that we are always used to, okay? And this is the mode that we always function. However, because now we're on survival mode, I also want us to think about myself and my spouse. Okay, how do I normally cope with stress under normal circumstances? Okay, we can have one husband who's very panicky and the wife very calm, or the husband are full action and the wife just prefers to sit down. Yeah, I think it's good for us to ask ourselves, how do we normally cope? Some of us, whenever we have stress or in a crisis or threatened, we get agitated, we got panicky. Some of us prefer just to keep quiet, and then actually we cannot sleep or we cannot function. Some of us, when we get angry, we shout. Some of us, when we're angry, we actually pretend it's not there and we withdraw. Some of us are introverted, some of us are extroverted. How do we regulate our emotions? How do we cope in the day, normal day to day? Let me just pause for a few seconds. If you are with your spouse, you can talk to your spouse. If you are not with your spouse, just ask yourself, how do I function when COVID-19 wasn't here? Based on this question. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I want to say that the COVID-19 has also positive impact on our marriages. Okay, I have spoken to several friends and they tell me that because my husband cannot travel, first time I see him at home so often, and that's nice, and he helps out with the housework. I don't know whether the husband feels the same way, yeah? And we enjoy the time together. And some of us also share with me that first time we all sit down and have a meal together, because normal days, this one come in late, this one come in earlier, and you know, we are all busy doing our own stuff. Yeah, out of the house, or it's difficult to get us to sit down together and meals together. Okay, so generally, we are all together in a family, and it's good actually to have that companionship, to have that time together. I think that most of us are generally okay with that, although at times we can get on each other's nerves, yeah? Okay, I've already mentioned earlier that the COVID-19 has got unusual demands on family and relationship. Okay, and normal days, I think, between husband and wife, usually I think there's some communication. We'll talk about, okay, are you meeting? What time should I meet you? How are the children coping? When should we visit your mother? What do you want me to buy at the supermarket? What time shall we go to church for cell group, or etc., etc. So it's very functional, sometimes not so deep, but generally we are calm because things are okay, you know, we go to office, we work, some of us stay at home, etc. However, with the COVID-19, we are all at home, okay? And sometimes this usual pattern of interaction disappears. Why? Because we are in such close proximity. Okay, and as we mentioned earlier, we are in the survival mode. So that usual pattern of interaction may be challenged and may have an impact on that. I think one of the things that we really struggle with is this concept of healthy separation. When we go to work, when we are away from our loved ones, a large part of the day, actually it is, some people call it healthy, because this is the time where you have a breather, where you can share with your colleagues, go out with them for lunch, you can go out and do your hair, you can go and sing in the choir, you can meet your friends to have a chit chat, drink a cup of coffee, and then share with them what's happening at home. So our interaction with our children and our husbands or our wives, not as major as now where we see them every day. So because now we don't go out so much, that healthy separation is no longer there. Okay, and sometimes resentment can build up. Okay, why? Because we are, in a way, we have no choice but to spend long hours in the same house, sometimes in the same room, in the same kitchen, and very, very close proximity. I think in Singapore, we are very, we know that it is difficult to get out of the house because there's just no space. Okay? And that close proximity can be very stressful. As a result, our marriages can be strained. We find that our children getting on our nerves. We also read in the news that helpers getting on us as well. I think this situation can be particularly bad if we have unresolved issues that we have ignored and buried for years. So it's good for us to keep this in mind as I move on, yeah? Okay. This morning, I want to use, I'm not using this therapy. I just want to share this diagram or this picture. This is cognitive behavior therapy. Cognitive behavior therapy believes that whatever you think affects how you feel, and whatever you feel affects how we act. And then how we act affects how we think, and they sort of go around in a circle. I'm not using this, therapy, but the interconnectedness between how we think, how we feel, how we act is a useful concept for me to share this morning. Yeah. Okay, let me move on. Okay. Let's look at the thinking part of us. Yeah. Okay. When we talk about the think, is that part of our brain. Okay. It actually refers to very unconscious part of our brain. So let me just click this and so that I can then go from here. Okay, this thinking part of our brain refers to the lenses that we wear when we see things. It refers to our worldviews. It refers to our mental models. In fact, it is very often from the culture that we grew up in, the kind of home that we've been brought up, who look after us when we're young, our school, our teachers, our friends, our grandparents, our immediate and extended family. I just want to give some examples because when I do meet up with couples, these are some of the things that they share with me. For example, one of the views or one of the beliefs and one of the mental models that sometimes we have is that the wife should look after everything that is in the house. So everything in the house, within the home, comes under her. So the meals, the housework, the windows, the bedsheet, everything comes under her. And then the man will only look after the things outside the house. Yeah, everything, the car, I don't know, maybe holidays or anything outside beyond the house. Another quite deep-rooted value or mental models or worldview that I hear is that the husband knows best. So actually the wife needs to listen to him. Yeah. And then I also find this happens quite a bit as well when the husband should pay for everything in the house because he's the head of the house, or that's what happened to my father or my grandfather. So as a wife, if I work and I earn my money, actually that is my own money. Yeah. So generally they feel that I don't need to contribute to the house. These are just some examples of opinions, perspective that people have. Now, these values are very entrenched in many of us, and actually it drives the way we see things, and it definitely drives our expectation of our spouse, our marriage, and our family. Okay? Just to put that in our at the back of our mind. And I want to say that this thing part of us, that part that's inside here, is actually the root of stubbornness. And this is the one that's most difficult to change. Yeah, it is almost like entrenched inside of us, very, very difficult to change. I wouldn't say it's impossible to change. It is possible, just difficult. For example, the wife will say, my husband has this, my husband thinks this way, and I cannot accept it. I find it very difficult. Yeah, I just want to let you know that it is difficult to change, but can be changed, takes a lot of effort. Okay, what should we be doing when we have all these this type of thoughts about the COVID-19, about how, okay, let me just gather my thoughts. Okay, these thoughts that we have can affect the way we behave in the house during COVID-19. Yeah. So we may think that, okay, my wife is in charge of everything, and so I leave everything to her, and it can have a negative impact on us. Okay. So let me just go through this. Okay. One of the things when we have all these thoughts in us is for us to take one day at a time. Okay, for example, let me give you an example. If we find that we have lost our job, or our job is hanging in the air, our businesses is affected, things are not looking good really in front of us. Okay, and my children are at home, 1 week home-based learning, 1 week going to school. My child is having a major exam. Things are just looking very bad. Okay, and let's take one day at a time. Okay, I think the future is really very unpredictable. We don't know what is going to come, not just in Singapore, but in the world. So take one day at a time. Take care of the things one day at a time. Look at that day I'm able to go through it, and then live that day for that day, looking at the present. The other thing is to make allowances that these are not normal times, and to lower our expectation and standards. So for example, if I grew up in a family where it's always very neat, my mother keeps the house very neat. Okay. Now with COVID-19, everybody is at home. All the children at home. We have our meals all at home. The house is very messy. It's very cramped. Things are all over the place. We're all sharing space. The dining table is used as a work table. It's used as for everything. Okay, and we have to clear space. We have to, there's no private personal space. And we all stay at home, uncomfortable, cramped, lack of privacy. Our productivity is low. Things don't get done. In fact, I was talking to a friend. She said, Mok Sang, everything is not in order. Okay, I think we can expect this to happen. Okay, we may grow up in a family that's very neat, but at this time, it's just messy. Yeah, and so I suggest that we close our eyes, not just close one eye, but close two eyes. Yeah, and during this time, we probably have to clothe ourselves with humility. Sorry. Okay, what do I mean by that? Taking 2 steps back. Be prepared to do things we've never done before, queuing up in supermarket, etc., ordering things online, taking up a lot of time and energy. Be prepared that there'll be conflict. Be prepared to make mistakes. Be prepared to say sorry. I think one of the things that in our culture is that when we say sorry, some of us have been told that it means that we are wrong. And many of us say that, I don't want to say sorry because I didn't purposely do it, Actually, I was angry. So when I make a mistake or I said something, I don't mean it, so I don't have to say sorry. I think most of us make mistakes not because we purposely want to do it, because we are not careful, because maybe we're not so considerate, maybe we're a little bit forgetful, yeah? So let's clothe ourselves with humility. Okay, can I move on? Okay, during this time, I think in terms of if our worldview, for example, is that the world is like this, the world should be like that, the economy should be like that, etc. I shouldn't lose my job. Why am I losing my job, etc.? Why are the children at home? Why didn't I even receive email to say that the education ministry is not doing enough, or the teachers are giving too much work to the children at this time? It's so stressful, cramming everything together. So the government should do something, the school should do something, the teachers should do something. I think at this time, let's try not to overanalyze anything, and try not to go deeper and deeper and try and think and think and think. The more we think, the more it affects us negatively. And somebody suggested that budget our exposure time to news. In other words, limit our consumption of COVID-19 related news. Okay, I know that for some people, when they see the number of cases going up, whether it's community or at large, it affects their mood. Yeah, it affects their mood. You may want to be careful not to read all the negative news. If you see a video that you think is not worth seeing, delete it. Don't send it to somebody else. Yeah, give yourself permission to let go. Okay, this is something that has to be intentional. So if you find that you have a very unproductive trend of thought coming, give yourself permission. Tell yourself, let go of it. I'll do a little bit of this when I do deep breathing later on. Okay. The other thing that we want to do in terms of our thoughts, some of these thoughts that we talked about earlier, is to take perspective. Okay, what do I mean by that? To go, we always think that the other side is better. The grass is greener on the other side. Not necessary, not necessary. You need to ask yourself, how would my life be? How would my life be like without my spouse? How would I treat my present situation for another? How would I feel if my spouse and children are not living with me? You know, I talk to a lot of people and they always share me. Some of them are single. They said it will be nice if I'm married, because being single means I have to live on my own, especially when my parents are not around. And it can be lonely, it can be quiet, it can be just at times miserable. Yeah. And for those of us who are married, sometimes you say, no, I wish I'm single. I wish I didn't get married. Then I can change job. Then I can travel, etc., etc. I think these are really negative thoughts. Let's not have these negative thoughts. Let's be thankful that for where we are currently, yeah, we can have a family with us, even though at times can be challenging. The other thing in terms of our thoughts is to ask what questions instead of why questions. Okay, let me give you some example of why questions. Why questions with questions such as, why am I so unfortunate I'm graduating now? Why didn't I think of it earlier? Why didn't I save more? Why is this happening to me? Why didn't I spend more time with my parents? Why didn't I see this coming? So these are the questions you blame yourself, you're full of regrets. These are the questions we don't want to ask ourselves, because that's in the past. We want to look forward and ask what questions, where we look at the present situation, making the best of it. For example, what can I do to make things better? What is my spouse going through? What should I be doing to occupy my time? What can I do to help my present situation, to help my spouse, help my children, help my neighbors, help my parents, help my sister, for example? Yeah. Okay. One of the things that can help us at this time for our marriage is to choose to focus on the strength, good points, and things that attracted me to my spouse when we first started. Okay, to refocus on our spouse, to look at his strength. You know, I do counseling with married couples, and very often when they're having problems in marriage, they'll come in and tell me all the weaknesses of their spouse. Let me share this with you. So these are some of the things they will tell me. My husband is very stubborn. He thinks he's always right. He doesn't share his thoughts and feelings with me. I cannot change his ways. He spends too much money. He spends too much time on the phone. He spends too much time on TV. He don't know how to discipline the children. He don't know how to teach the children. He doesn't care for me. And then for the husbands, usually they'll say this, my wife loves to nag at me. I cannot stand her nagging. Then for the wife, they'll say, my husband doesn't help out housework. Does it sound familiar? I think so, yeah? I think a lot of our spouses have all this, okay? And so if you listen to others, actually all our spouses have got all these weaknesses. It's not peculiar to only one, your husband or your wife. Let me share, and then I will ask them to go home and do homework. Go and think of 5 strengths of your husband, good points. And I tell you, most of the time, they'll come back with many, many good points about their spouse. It's just that they didn't take time to think through their spouse's strength because they were so focused on the weaknesses. And these are some of the things they share with me. Actually, I can respect my husband. Actually, my husband is generally responsible. He will buy food for me. So far, he's dependable. He also planned holiday for the family. Once in a while, he cooked for the family. He will buy my favorite food. And I feel comfortable with him. And then some of them will say, oh, my wife cooked my favorite dessert. And then they will also tell me, when I'm not around, I can trust my husband to look after me. And once I got sick, very sick, I realized that actually my husband can look after me. And my husband loves my children. My husband treats the children well. He'll drive them around. And my husband makes me feel good. I feel comfortable with him. And they will come out with things like, actually, my husband is thoughtful, considerate, so many, you know. And so I want to pause here again and give you a bit of time. We'll take a 2-3 minute break, just to, and then for you to maybe write down and just think of 3 to 5 strengths of my spouse. Yeah. And then after that, also you can take a break from my voice. Wang Ming?
Yep, thank you, Mok Sang. Mok Sang, you might want to try holding up your mic when you speak.
It's still very soft.
Yeah, it's still very soft because sometimes
Oh.
when you move your head, it doesn't capture your voice.
So
yeah,
sorry.
correct. So if you were to hold your mic nearer to your mouth, I think that would help a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. So while we're taking this short, I mean, not really short, but time of reflection, you might want to just list down 5 things like Mok Sang say, the good points, the strengths, the good things, what attracted you to your spouse in the very first place, right? When you all go pat tour and when you all fall in love the very first time. Write down all those things that attracted you. And if you are with your spouses, maybe, I don't know, you can share with each other and encourage each other, you know, you are like this, you are like this. Yeah, this will be a good point to encourage each other and to affirm each other as we take this time to really reflect and think what are the good things that you have experienced from your spouse up to now. Right, so just take the next 2-3 minutes to do that. And if you're with your spouse, don't be shy, right? Just tell them, you know, you are handsome, you are beautiful, or you are considerate, you are helpful, you help to wash the dishes after dinner, after the meals, and for the husband to tell the wife that, wow, you have been keeping yourself beautiful. You know, you have been cooking the meals for me. Thank you. Looking after the children. Right. So just share words of affirmation with each other. And I don't know, maybe if it's appropriate, you can give a hug as well. Some spouses may need a hug from each other. Right. Yeah.
By the way, Kwang Ming, that's a good suggestion, which I didn't put in, to give a hug to each other. It's actually important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just take this few minutes to do that. I think it's good to affirm each other during this stressful time. And don't be afraid to tears if you want to. Just make sure you have tissues with you. And if you're comfortable, you can actually also put in the comment, right? Like, for example, don't you name, like my spouse is, for example, say my wife is marvelous because she helps to take care of the children. Despite her busy schedule. So I'll pass the time over to Mok Sang. Anytime Mok Sang, you're ready.
Let me just, okay. Thank you for the 2 questions that have come in. I appreciate that very much. They are very good questions. Keep your questions coming in. I will try my best to I apologize for the volume because I didn't see the message. Kwang Ming, if it's soft, just interject me anytime. Okay, let me go to my slides. Okay, let me go to the slides. Okay, we have covered the thinking part of it. Let me go to the feeling part of it. Okay, yeah. I think that I share these feelings because during this period, there will be many, many feelings that we are going through. Okay, we feel this way. And I want to say that very often these feelings cannot be explained. Because if I go to my husband and say, I'm anxious, I'm sad, my husband says, what are you anxious about? What is there to be anxious about? It's very difficult to explain, and don't try to explain, yeah? So for example, I was with friends and they say, I am bored because I cannot go out. I feel a little depressed because I cannot go for choir practice. I feel constrained because I cannot drink coffee. I feel frustrated because I cannot go back to office. So we are not alone when we have all these feelings. Sometimes you can wake up in the morning feeling quite okay. As the days go by, sometimes you read the news and you feel bad. Sometimes you wake up in the morning feeling very down, and as the day go by, you get worse. Or as the day go by, it can get better. So as we are in the state of grief and loss, this is what happens, yeah? Okay, let me move on. Okay. We all have different feelings, and we have to accept that we have these feelings. Okay, I will talk a little bit about how to accept these feelings. More importantly, I think we have to accept that my spouse may be feeling differently from me. I think it's okay. Chit Chong is next to me. I'm the Kanchong type. Chit Chong is a very cool type. So he won't feel the way I feel very often. In fact, it's really quite the opposite for those of you who know us, yeah? So I have to accept that that is his way of it. It doesn't mean he has no feeling. He doesn't show it as much, okay? But during this period, our feelings will be really, I would use the word even sometimes topsy-turvy. Okay, how do we accept these feelings? Okay, I think we have to get in touch with these feelings. Okay, I'm going to give you some example. For example, you can tell yourself, I'm feeling lost because I lost my job. I'm feeling confused because I don't know what to do. I'm upset because the Wi-Fi at home is very slow. I'm afraid to go back to the office because it's so crowded. I feel sad because my wedding has been postponed. I feel very anxious because I cannot see my mother as often as I used to, etc., etc. And literally, you have to tell yourself that it's okay. It's okay for me to feel this way. And don't feel bad if you have these feelings. Don't feel bad if you have these feelings. We are now in survival mode. And I already have a question that asks me what happens when we analyze the situation too much. I think when we are in this survival mode, chances are that, not chances, when we are in this survival mode, actually it's been said that we need to do something. We need to be in control. And sometimes we don't know what to do. We end up analyzing the situation a lot because we don't know what to do. So and in the process, we actually become negative. Yeah, we become negative, okay? We want to do something, yet there's nothing we can do. There's nothing much we can do. Okay, so at this stage during this COVID-19, fearing the unknown is actually very, very normal. I want to share a little bit about this. Okay, when we are in survival mode, actually, because of the adjustment and the losses that we are going through, actually our emotions are actually very strong and our emotions are very raw. So we find ourselves very impatient than normally. We may cry more than normally. We may be very teary, for example. I'm going to share this example with you. Actually, my helper, who has been with me for 23 years, has gone home for the last 5 years. She called me sometime in mid-March, okay, and she said that she's going through very hard times because she has no food. And she stays in Cebu with her husband, and you can see that I'm crying. And she started crying, and I actually broke down with her because this is the first time she called me in the 5, 6 years, she's left me to ask for help. In fact, she didn't ask for help. She just say that she has no money. Anyway, since then, we have sent her some money. But just to let you know that under normal circumstances, I won't cry because I hear this. But when I saw her and I saw what she's going through, and I remembered the many people in the world who are going through what she's going through, I become very teary and I become very emotional and I started crying with her. Yeah. So at this time, I think all of us, our emotions are dysregulated. I would say that if you ask me, Mok Sang, are you fine now? My answer is, I'm not so fine. I wish I'm fine, but I'm not. So actually, all of us are experiencing some form of stress, anxiety, and worry, yeah, at this time. So what do we do? I suggest that we pour out our feelings to God. We tell God how we feel. God loves us. He wants to hear from us. When we talk to God aloud, we are articulating our feelings, we're identifying them, and we are becoming more aware. You know, sometimes when we're angry, we tell God, God, I'm so angry. Say out loud to him. When we do that, God hears us. He wants to listen to us. And this, okay, hang on now. And how do we replace this sort of feelings? Okay, what do we replace them with? Okay, we replace them with gratefulness, thanksgiving, joy, peace, hope, and calmness. You know, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said, Mok Sang, I want to tell you something. I said, what is it? I'm just so thankful I have a roof over my head and I have food to eat. That is true gratefulness. That is true gratefulness when we think of the millions who are suffering. Yeah? And of course, sing praises to him and give thanks. You know, I was reading, I was going through doing research for this, and actually singing is very, very good for us. Even though we don't feel like singing, let's sing. Don't have to sing hymns all the time. Christian songs are good, but we can sing Carpenters, those songs that we sang when we were dating, those songs that we sang when we were in our teens, things that make you happy. You can listen to new music, etc., etc. Yeah, and give thanks, of course. Pray. Pray for strength to overcome the losses that we talked about earlier. Pray for strength over our feelings. Pray for strength to accept our spouse for their feelings. Pray for strength and try to understand what he's going through. Yeah. Okay, listen to music. Okay, I mentioned this earlier. Sing songs, listen to music. Okay, do deep breathing through the day. I will do a little bit of this at the end when we have time. Yeah. Okay, we finish at 11. Okay. When we feel that we are losing control of ourselves, for example, we are getting very angry, we're getting very upset, it's coming, I can feel my anger. I think we have to take a deep breath through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. I usually suggest you take 5 deep breaths, hold and out, okay? Hold and out, okay? And last one, write down how you feel. Journaling is actually very, very helpful because you are then converting your feelings into writing. For some of us, it's actually very useful. Okay, now let me go on. Now let's share these feelings with our spouse. I know this is not easy. Okay, for the ladies, we would like, for the women especially, and wives or whatever, it is easier for us to share our feelings with our spouse, just to start this off. I think for the men, it is very difficult for them to share their feelings. Okay, I just want to say that don't be discouraged if your husband don't share feelings with you because this is the way they've been brought up. Okay, how many of us have seen our father, for example, my father sharing feelings with my mother? Never. How many of us have seen our grandfather sharing feelings with my grandmother? Never. So our husbands, chances are that they grow up not sharing their feelings. I don't think they go around and share their feelings with their best friend either. Yeah, it is something that is very cultural, something that we have to learn. And if some of the husband may be even thinking that if I share my feelings with my wife may think I'm weak. Sometimes they don't share their feelings with us because they are worried that we will get worried. Sometimes the husbands don't share their work problem with us because they are worried that we will get anxious. Yeah. And then for the wives, when you share your feelings with your husband, don't be discouraged if they appear as if they're not listening, because they don't grow up in a culture where they show attention and listen to all our feelings. So listening to feelings is something that has to be learned, practiced, and intentional. And remember, we said earlier, it's hard work, it is hard. Okay, what are some of the, okay, I think I've shared some of the feelings earlier. Okay, I would like to, okay, hang on. Okay, hang on. Don't assume that your spouse knows how we feel. Don't assume that your spouse knows how you feel. For example, if you're upset, tell your husband or your wife, I think this is for husband, I feel upset when I have to tell you to help me with the housework. For the husband, you can tell your wife, say that, I feel frustrated that you do not understand. I have a lot of adjustment to make having to work at home. I feel angry that you do not appreciate that working at home is really a challenge for me. Okay, husband saying to wife, yeah, things like that. I am really fearful that I might lose my job in the near future, etc., etc. Okay, don't assume that you're. Listen to our spouse feeling. Even if we feel differently, we disagree and we don't understand. Okay, at this juncture, let me share a short video about listening with you, which I found it helpful.
And it's great for us to be able to have you here right at the start of our series on relationships. And obviously we all have relationships, whether that's friendships or with people at work or neighbours or parents or with a partner. But what would you say are keys to having really healthy relationships?
It was so interesting listening to that reading from James, and how he talks about be quick to listen. And our experience has been there is nothing that is more important than listening to another person. And actually, well, if I can say this, one of the dangers in a long marriage is we assume we know what the other person thinks and is about to say. So we jump in, we switch off, or we give them advice before they've finished. But actually, we've realized we don't know what the other person is thinking or feeling. And that's true not just in marriage, that is true in every relationship. It's true in friendships, it's true for our parents, it's true at work. We have to find out from the other person and what they are thinking and feeling, what's important to them right now, what do they need? And the only way to do that is to take time to listen to them.
And I have to say, I think I am not a naturally good listener. So I have had to learn a lot in the 43 years of being married, and I'm still learning. And actually, you know, marriage is a very, very good place to learn and to get better at listening. But I think one of the biggest things I've learned is, I mean, particularly in marriage, but in any relationship, is to ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. Draw out.
Okay.
And it,
right. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video. She has been married for 43 years and she's still learning how to listen. Okay. You have to remove the tool optimizer. Just give me a minute now. I cannot see myself on the screen. Okay. We are doing this for the first time. So Chang is helping me. Okay, right here. This one. Yep, we're good to go. Okay, I think one of the, okay, so we have finished on think, feel now is the act part, yeah? Okay, one of the things that I want to suggest that as a couple, what we do is to help each other have a me time. Okay, this is the me time that is very important. Some of us do it early in the morning, some of us do it before we sleep at night. This is a personal time. Sorry, this is a personal time, a personal space. It's both a physical as well as an emotional space. It is a time for self-care, self-indulgence, self-enjoyment, just privacy away from the loved ones. And actually, I think this is a time for us to recharge, to refresh. In the past, we do it different ways. As I mentioned earlier, go to the gym, go and drink a cup of coffee yourself, go pedicure, manicure, all sorts of facial, etc. I think that now that we are at home, sometimes it's not possible physically to be away from our loved ones. I suggest you put on your earpiece, cut off all the noise, retreat somewhere, even if it's to a sofa for a short while, half an hour, or etc. at the end of the day, beginning of the day. And then if your husband is having a me time, the wife looks after the house, etc. And then you sort of take turns, yeah? Okay, have a routine. I think a lot of people have been talking about this. Get out of your pajamas, okay, etc., etc. You know, who cooks, when, what is the time. So I know of a couple who has to work from home and they have a room. So this room is for them to do Zoom or whatever meeting, and they have to book the room because both of them are having a lot of meetings. So the wife is booking the room, the husband cannot. Okay, this routine means we wake up, we have our meals regularly, etc., and then get things started, when to start work, etc. And of course, our routine now is all topsy-turvy, so we need a little discipline for this. Get moving. Okay, do 3 minutes of physical movement. Simply stand and circle our shoulders, etc. Okay, I think a lot has been talked. Okay, be prepared to take on a new role and different responsibility. For example, I think for whatever reasons, some of us have, because we work away from home, we don't supervise our children in their studies. In fact, I met a stranger and she told me that the daughter has never looked after the children. She's always at work. And when she had to work from home and look after the children, she appreciated her mother so much more, because she used to ask her mother, why are you scolding my children? Why are you shouting? When she came home and she saw what the mother had to do, she really appreciated. And now she has to take on that role because she never had to do that. Yeah. So it means we may have to go out and buy things, which we never did because my wife used to do or my husband used to do. Now we have to take turns, etc. Calling my parents, etc. Okay. Try things never done before. I think a lot have been said about this, so I won't go too much into this, except to share that even for the elderly, okay, I think a friend of mine was telling me that the mother never wanted to eat tengkat food or the tengkat pre-prepared food. She's really against that. But recently, because of this COVID-19, she ordered some food for the mother, and it turned out better than expected. So it's not so bad, yeah, if we move from there. Okay. You notice I had the word communicate 3 times. So it's just very important for us to talk, to really share, to really come together. Okay. I think normal days, as I mentioned earlier, we don't see each other the whole day. So it's okay. We can sort of get by. But I think because we are now next to each other, a few feet away from each other, we have to really talk to each other. I will talk a little bit more about how to do this. Okay, speak words of affirmation and encouragement. Okay, how do we do this? If you are the type to say I love you once a month or once a year on anniversary, can I urge you to say I love you to your husband more often, maybe every day? Okay, Chichong and I, we try to do this, and my friend thinks that we are crazy, but I don't think so. I think it's okay to say that I love you. At the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, it is important, and this is good. It is also important for us to say thank you. Thank you for washing the dishes. Thank you for buying this food. Please, can you do this? If we ask our husbands to go and buy something and they come back not quite the way we want, thank you for going to buy, and that's it. Okay, don't say, but next time can you do it this way, etc. Yeah, because we are in this survival mode, as I mentioned earlier, I think we have to be very careful what we say to our spouse, especially if our spouse is at home and not doing any work for whatever reasons, okay? Don't say things like, since you have so much time, why don't you do this? Don't say things like, since you're so free, why don't you wash the toilet, for example? Yeah, just be careful, because when they have nothing to do, or when I have nothing to do, and someone comes and say to me, I can feel offended. What do you mean I have so much time? Time is mine, I decide what I want to do. So during this period, let's encourage one another, let's be considerate, even though sometimes we don't feel like doing it, yeah? Okay, next one is about looking towards each other. I think at this time, let's look towards each other for support, for prayer. I suggest that if we have been praying once in a while, once a month, once a week, why don't we pray a little bit more, maybe once a day, even if it's for 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes is good enough. If we can 5 minutes, we can then go a little bit more. Okay, I'm coming, last few slides, yeah. Okay, I want to suggest that we have this daily check-in as a couple. Why do I have this daily check-in? Okay, the reason is because when we have this daily check-in, it means that I take my spouse seriously. So for example, you can set, okay, every night we come together at 11 o'clock, or every morning we come together at 7:30, and then we talk for 10 minutes. It may seem artificial and troublesome, okay? But setting aside time means I'm respecting you. So for example, if my wife said, can we set aside 10 minutes and talk? And you say, okay, let's set aside. Don't put away our handphone, switch off the TV, find a little corner, even if it's noisy, just sit down and talk. It can be over a meal, but it will be better if it's just eyeball to eyeball. Yeah? And there are many things that we can talk about. We can start with practical things, when to clean the house, who to clean the house, agree on things like that. What food should we be eating? Who is going to buy the food? How's the laundry going to be done, etc. And of course, discuss and agree on the me time, which I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I think, oh, so sorry. I think the other thing which I did not put inside here, my final point under daily check-in, is also to talk about finances. I think at this point, all of us are affected in some way or the other. Our finances can be affected by what's happening, and we probably have to sit down and talk about the moving ahead. Yeah, where to get help, for example. Okay, during this check-in, as I mentioned earlier, hear each other out. Go a little bit deeper. What am I thinking? What is going through my head? So for example, you can say that I'm hurt because you always tell me that my job is lousy and pays so little. I feel inferior, I feel lousy. Things like that, yeah? Or I think that the situation out there is so bad. So listen to each other. Tell each other your worries, your fears, your hope. I'm angry when you remind me that I've lost my job. I'm upset when you always ask me to do things just because I have more time. Okay, these are some of the things you want to share. Okay, I think I just want to tell the women that usually the men cannot read our mind. Okay, so it's important for us to share what we are really feeling. Okay, if we put out a black face, they won't know. They cannot read our mind, so it's good for us to share. Okay, say what I need and communicate our needs. Okay, this is something which is also very cultural. So for example, if I need something to be done, or I need certain things, I will say things like, I need your help to do the dishes. Okay, don't say things like, the dishes are there. You should know. Who is supposed to wash the dishes? Me? You lah, you're so free. Like that, okay? So, things like that. I think, so for example, if I need Chit Chong to do something, I'll say, oh, there are no more eggs already. Can you help buy some more, please? Dear, can you help me wash the dishes after dinner? So I think that that sort of make your husband feel needed, and they feel good because we are also respecting them. Okay, right. Pray together. I've mentioned this as well. Start small. You can start with 5 minutes. Okay, one of the things that would be very helpful during this period is to connect with others beyond your spouse, okay? Be others-centered, focus less on your own problems and be less inward-looking, okay? Can be your extended family, your immediate neighbor, can be your long-lost primary school friends, etc. And to just really think about others who are not just in Singapore, but elsewhere in the world who are truly suffering, yeah? I think that helps. I think church has many opportunities for us to reach out to others. Okay, I want to say that during this period, as we are in the survival mode, let's not try to change our spouse. As I mentioned earlier, thoughts very difficult to change. We can pray for them, accept them, ask God to transform them, but don't try to change them. Very difficult. We have so many things to worry about at this time. Don't iron out differences at this time. Don't say, oh, since we're at home, we might as well, settle these lifelong differences, all these things that let's talk through. I wouldn't suggest that. In fact, if during this period, somehow you all get to sit together and talk about things, some underlying issue, can I suggest that you keep it only to 20 minutes or half an hour? Tell ourselves, okay, we talk for 20 minutes, then we stop. Because if not, if you're not careful and you get very negative and the conflicts start coming out and there's no one to help you, it can get worse, yeah? Okay, the last one is, I suggest also during this period, not to make big major marital decisions. For example, things like I want to move out to stay with my parents once this thing is over. I want to divorce my husband when this is over, etc., etc. Seek help, seek counseling first. Ask someone to pray for you. Church is open. Talk to someone, seek counseling. This one, I think we have a lot of help in church. Care Help has started, so we can call church. Guang Ming told me that if you call church, actually, there's someone who pick up the phone, even though office is not open. Okay, as I end my sharing this morning, I'm reminded that we live in a perfect world with imperfect bosses, imperfect children, imperfect mother-in-law, imperfect friends. Sometimes we have very, very high unrealistic expectations of ourselves, our spouse, and our marriage. Okay, I'm not perfect. My spouse is not perfect. Our marriage is not perfect. But the God we believe in is perfect. God loves me, my family, more than we could hope or imagine. In Christ, there's always hope. Never give up. Do not give up hope. Okay, that's it. Oh, Guang Ming, I finished.
Thank you, Mok Sang. Thank you for bringing us through this morning. Just now you were mentioning that doing something new during this time. I just reminded of you doing this new thing during this time. Yeah,
Yes.
I believe you have never done this before. So yeah, so this is a new thing for all of us. And thank you for those of you who are joining us on the live stream, your patience and waiting for us to get what we need to show. So thank you very much. At this time, I think we want to take some questions. So let me just share my screen. So if you have questions, you can scan this QR code and you can just key in the questions to us and we'll try our best to address them as we receive your questions, right? So yeah, you can start sending in your questions and we will take the questions one at a time and we'll try to address them as many and as well as we can. So maybe Mok Sang, you'd like to start with the two questions that we received through email.
Okay, yes. Okay, hang on. The first question we received through email is, how do I tell my spouse to exercise more tolerance during challenging times like this? Okay. I think that you notice that throughout my sharing, I do not use the word tell. I think our spouse are actually, we tell our children certain things. Probably for this particular person, I would suggest that because your husband is in survival mode and in this flight, in this mode that is not quite normal for most of us, he is likely to be less tolerant to begin with. So if he is relatively okay, I think we have to accept that. But I would do something like, let's say he's John. I say, John, can I share with you my observation? I noticed that during this time, you are pretty impatient. It would be nice if you can be more tolerant. Yeah, something along that line. Okay. So instead of telling him, can you be more tolerant? Can you be more patient? You say in nice way, can I share my observation? Can I share what I noticed about you during this time? Okay. The second question, which is good, is this person asks how to manage words of anger said to me in times of frustration and conflict. The fact that this person asks, how can I manage anger, is very good, because anger needs to be managed. And when you say, how can I manage my anger, you are actually hitting the nail on the head. You are already managing by telling yourself that I need to manage this anger. The second thing that this person did good is that you know this person is saying these words of anger in times of frustration and conflict. So sometimes you have to tell them, you have to discount it. It hurts, but you have to discount because this person said in anger. When you are ready, you can tell your husband, John, I noticed that when you're angry, you said these words to me. Okay, actually, it has hurt me. I don't have time to share about this thing about hurt, but very often our spouse hurt us and we don't know how to tell them. We feel vulnerable when we tell them that we are hurt. Actually, we have to say, because I have come across many couples, they actually hurt each other. And when I get them to share what they hurt each other, they broke down and cry and cry and cry because the wife didn't know that what he did hurt him. The husband didn't know what he did that hurt her. It was really very sad. So they realized that what they did hurt each other so much, but they didn't have a chance to talk about it. Yeah? Okay. Okay, Kwang Ming, can I do the next question?
Yeah, please.
Okay. How to communicate when we tend to argue and have different views? Okay. Spouse is a Christian but cold and not yearning to grow, distracted by worldly things. Okay. I think this is what I mentioned earlier, that our worldviews are pretty entrenched. When it comes to this particular case, not that you cannot communicate, you will have to, if I'm the husband and my wife is a Christian, but she is cold and not yearning to grow, what you need to do I would suggest for this first case is for you to look after yourself first. Means you look after your own self-care, be aware of yourself first. Because this thing about having different worldviews, cold, not yearning to grow, it can be quite deep-rooted, and you need to look after your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own action first. Then you can slowly communicate with your husband. Yeah, but it is not easy because you are on two different sort of worldviews. I can see that different views, Christian, cold, not yearning to grow. It happens very often, unfortunately. Yeah, and you would then have to don't give up. Don't give up. Start small. Start with 5 minutes. Yeah, start with 5 minutes. Tell the person how you don't start off with feelings. Don't start with deep things. Start with simple things. Start on things that you agree on. For example, it could be visiting your mother-in-law. It could be things related to the children. He's distracted by worldly things. What are some of the worldly things? Maybe you can show interest in his worldly things. It could be sports or anything. I'm not sure what you mean by worldly things. So try and go into his world. This distracted by worldly things. Maybe is also good for you to know what are these worldly things. Yeah. Okay. I hope I have answered that question. Okay, what should be my response be when my spouse overanalyze the COVID situation and get negative? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I think sometimes when we overanalyze the situation, it's also because it's our way of coping. To put it in a very blunt way, it's our way of coping the anxiety in us. Yeah, because we don't know what to do. So we look at the news and we try and think, oh, is it like that? Is it like that? Or maybe it's like that. Maybe no, etc., etc. after today's sharing, maybe you'd like to tell your husband that there's this lady called Mok Sang. She suggested that maybe we don't overanalyze it, because it can affect us. Have you told your spouse, your husband and wife, that it does affect the family? Yeah, and maybe we want to budget how we view the news. You know, yeah, I think that's what you can do. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure if I answered that question. What to do when my husband gets my abuses, vulgarity? Okay. I think for this case, if your husband is violent physically and you feel that your safety is compromised, can I suggest that you call up for help, whether it's through church office or social services center? You need to get help. This warrant you to take action. It's what should I say? It warrants you to take action immediately. Can I suggest you call up office? Today is Saturday. Can call up today, right, Kwang Ming? Yeah, I would suggest that you. Okay, does that answer the question? Can I move on? Because
thank you, Mok Sang.
sorry, because when your husband gets violent, you need to seek professional help immediately. Yeah, and because you didn't say physical, but verbally abused with vulgarity on a daily basis. Yeah, you need to you probably need to tell him to stop, and if he doesn't, you need to seek professional help to know how to cope when this comes about. I don't know whether I have time. Kwang Ming, can I share a little bit about this verbal abuse? Because
please go ahead.
Because I actually had a case of a lady who was verbally abused for 14 years. And the husband will blame her for everything. So one day she, not through me, on her own, I just told her that you probably need to tell him. So one day she actually went up to the husband and said that, can you stop blaming me for everything? I don't like it. Then she stopped. Then the next time she said again, do you know, she told me the husband changed and stopped blaming her for everything. And she felt so good, you know. She says she has never done that in her life. She has never told the husband to stop blaming her and told the husband that she don't like it. And when she did it, this is called assertive communication. When she did it, I said, what do you do? She said, I just told him to stop. And then the husband changed, you know. And I was really happy for her, because it went on for 14 years before she came to see me. Yeah. Okay, so that's something you might want to try. Just tell him to stop, because I don't like it and I cannot stand it. Yeah. Okay, relationship very cold. How to make early steps to rebuild the relationship? Okay. I don't know how do you mean by cold? Is it communication cold? Is it emotional cold? How to make early steps to rebuild the relationship? Okay, as I have shared this whole morning, you will notice that there are many things that we can do for ourselves for a start. So for example, if the relationship is cold, you may want to start with yourself. In other words, your own self-identity, how you feel about yourself, how you value yourself, your own self-confidence, your own view of your own self-esteem, for example, your own self-actualization, for example. What do you enjoy? Your own self-identity first. And then you can slowly build your relationship. Okay, usually I find that this is quite difficult because, you know, you need some handlers, you need half a day retreat, maybe a day of retreat. But if your spouse is prepared, you can join some of the courses. If not, start small. You remember at the end of it, I talked about building in this daily check-in. Start with 5 minutes and say, hey dear, can we talk for 5 minutes? You know, and then you can start small, just being present. Don't give up. I mean, if your husband or your wife say, don't want, I don't want to talk to you. There's nothing to talk about, etc. Start small. Okay, hey, how about this weekend? Let's have a meal and then we can talk a little bit. Yeah. I hope that helps, and then you can go from there. If your husband is willing, prepared, do join us for the marriage enrichment. I just want to share also that at the marriage enrichment that we conducted, we were very surprised. 20 couples came. And in the course of the day, actually a few couples broke down during the session. I don't know what we were sharing, but they all broke down in session. And at the end of the session, they held hands, went through the Holy Communion. It was really very touching for us. Yeah. Okay, Kwang Ming.
Thank you, Mok Sang, for the sharing. You know, as you were addressing the last questions, one question that came to my mind that I'm not sure whether you'll be able to answer. But yeah, as much as you're comfortable to share, I'm just wondering, between you and Chi Chong, how do you keep the heat going?
Okay, sure. I think one of the things that right from day one we have made very intentional is to share. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, to have things like "I love you." So nowadays, because we are around, because we are not working, it's okay. But in the past, we used to just send each other a heart. You know, those heart, pink heart, yellow heart, etc. The other thing we do a lot is that we talk a lot to each other. Whenever we have the time. The other thing is to join cell group. I found that over the years, the last 33 years of our marriage, when we are in cell group, we found the cell group very, very good because it's through the cell that I get all the support in raising my children. It's through the cell friends that I share my challenges in marriage, in work, parenting, etc. I find that very helpful. The other thing that has really helped us is to be others-centered. Others-centered meaning helping others, the more vulnerable ones, whether it's in cell group, whether it's elderly, whether it's children. And last but not least, to do things together. So for example, I want to really thank Chit Chong for this. Actually, for this sharing this morning, Chit Chong did all the research, found the video and everything. I just put the thing together. He set up a screen. The notes I typed, but he sort of put all the wires together. He's sitting next to me now. That makes me feel very supported. In fact, I wouldn't do this if he didn't say yes, he will help me. Yeah, does that help, Kwang Ming?
Yeah, I think that's very helpful to be able to listen to how that happens and some of the tips that are given, like daily affirmation or showing of affection, the cell group support, that would be very helpful, and really to appreciate each other and being other-centered and being helpful to each other. I think those will be very much helpful during this time. Yeah, I think any time that we feel stressed, this would be good pointers to keep in mind as we manage our marriage itself. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, I'm just wondering, is there any other questions? We still have a few minutes, so while we're waiting for the if there are other questions that might come in, just to let us know that yes, the church office is open. The church office is physically closed, but we are still, the reception is still open. So you can call the church office if you feel that the church office can help. And if you are seeking for professional help or counseling, we are here to help you. So you can email to me and I will direct to the appropriate person that will be able to help you. Just be very assured that all this will be confidential.
Yeah.
Right, so your confidentiality will be kept. So you can email to me at kwangming@plmc.org and I will direct your email to the appropriate person. Yeah, Mok Sang, want to add anything here?
Do we have time to pray?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Can I close by praying?
Sure.
Yeah. Father, we thank you for this privilege of being in your kingdom. We thank you that we are your children and that you love us and that you are perfect God. Father, you know what we are going through at home, the challenges we are facing, the conflicts in our marriages, the struggles we have, sometimes our co-marriages, sometimes lukewarm marriages, sometimes less than ideal marriages. Father, in this situation, may you give us the strength, the grace, the mercy, and even the wisdom to know how to go about working on our marriage. We pray for the other half, so whether it's our husband or wife, who may not be listening in now. Lord, I pray for them. I pray that you speak to them. I pray that you touch their hearts. I pray that you soften their hearts so that they will work with each other to strengthen their marriage, to know that we are united because Christ is at the center of it all, and that this marriage was sanctioned, is a covenant unto you, dear Lord. And so as we struggle sometimes on a daily basis, whether it's major, minor, whether it's very strong conflict or little skirmishes, Lord, can you give us that wisdom, that grace, that mercy, so that we embrace, accept each other, so that we know where to move from here. And if necessary, Lord, you prompt us to seek help. You help us to step forward. We commit our marriages to you. We commit ourselves to you. We ask that you be real in our life, that your presence be with us, especially during this time of just uncertainty, this time of losses and grief. And Lord, we bring before all these at the feet of Jesus, asking that you just be with us. Your presence just drown us. Your presence just surround us. Your love just embrace us. And we thank you for everyone who's listening. We thank you for giving me the strength to share. I ask, Lord, that you bless every family that is represented listening in here. Lord, that you bless them with your holiness, your grace, your wisdom, your mercy, and your love, your joy, and your peace. I pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mok Sang. Yeah, just before we go, we really want to thank Mok Sang for taking up this challenge to lead us through this very timely and important topic on how to sustain our marriage during this stressful time. I think we have learned some useful tips from her, and I hope that you'll put into practice, for example, like affirming each other, thinking about the strengths, the good things, things they can appreciate about your spouse, showing affirmation and affection to each other. And really, if you are facing with challenges in your marriages, we are here to help. So if you feel that we can help you, just email to me and I'll direct your email to the appropriate person. So once again, we'll assure you that your confidentiality will be kept, right? So we have other webinars that are coming up. So do check the PLMC today for them. And I've also emailed you some of them. So do check them out and join us the next time. Right. So yeah. So if you find it helpful this morning, right, just put in a comment, a thumbs up or a thank you. Especially to encourage Mok Sang as she is doing this the very first time. I think some encouragement would be very, very good to help us and to help her, to spur her on to take up the next challenge, to do it one more time, right? So yeah, do let us know if you are encouraged and you find that this is helpful. Just put in the comment itself. Yeah. Any last word from you, Mok Sang, before we log off?
Thank you for the opportunity to share. Yeah. Okay. God bless.
Okay. God bless, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Goodbye.